actually had a block, we would, there's a couple of things. Actually, can you go up, back to, can you go down to another one? No, down. Ooh. Down, that's up, no, up. Okay. So, if there are a couple of reasons why you don't reach consensus, right? So, you don't have the support, right? If people were so indifferent to our proposal that half of the group had just stood aside, if a significant amount of the group had just stood aside, we wouldn't have consensus because most people didn't want to do it, right? So usually if you have like a certain proportion of stand-asides or blocks, you just don't, it's not consensus, right?
OK， 我哋有啲難題要處理嗰陣時咧，就係話，如果嗰個 proposal 嗰個建議大扎人都投棄權票嘅，或者大扎人嘅 block， 即係話嗰個根本嗰個建議係冇支持嘅啦，咁佢唔可以做個 consensual process 嘅，即係話基本上就第一個 scenario 就 not supported 並無支持，或者缺乏支持。
So another scenario is withdrawal of the proposal. If we get into deliberations and the proposal just isn't fleshed out and it's confusing and people don't really understand it, or there are a lot of concerns and it looks like it's just not going to get to consensus, the person or group who brings the proposal can withdraw it and say, I actually need to think about this more, I need to work on it more, and they'll pull it back from the consensus process.
如果嗰個建議係好似好多人 block 好多 concern， 即係好多關注，亦都好多提問嘅話咧，提出嗰個人可以將嗰個嘅建議收回。佢話 OK， 我翻去啦，諗下啦，然後再提新嘅。
And then finally a block. So if CK's block had been real, it probably would have affected the entire group. It probably would have spread, and because it was legitimate. Now people will throw up blocks and they don't actually mean them, and they don't actually know what blocks mean. And as a facilitator, it's your job to kind of call that out. But sometimes they have real blocks, and they're the only ones that hold them. And so in those cases, what's important about it is they get to be heard. They get to speak about why they feel so strongly against it. And if their argument is convincing and compelling and makes sense to people, then it will probably affect the ability to get consensus because people will join their block. If not, then go up.
如果即係我講嗰個 block 嗰個情況咧，就係話，如果一個真正嘅 block 嘅話，會好多人會明白同理解啦。佢哋facilitator 亦都會其實俾嗰個 block 嗰個人會詳細解釋點解覺得佢咁重要 block 嘅，咁然後係俾佢一個嘅 amendment 一個嘅機會啦。咁就係呢個點樣處理嘅 block。如果嗰個有啲人係不停咁係嘢都 block 嘅話咧，做 facilitator 一個就會唔理佢啦。即係有啲好似即係有啲人係乜即係逢嘢都反對嘅，總之就係乜都 block 嚟嘅，咁嗰啲嘅 facilitator 就會處理。佢哋處理有唔同嘅方法，我唔知佢陣間有冇講，即係有啲 difficult people 佢哋有處理方法。
So if you do have a block, in Occupy we had modified consensus, which was a vote essentially, right? If most people felt really good about something, but there were disruptors or there were people who weren't with us who like wanted to block, or if there was like a real block that just wasn't agreed with by most people who were in the group, which I think is actually kind of rare if you have a real block, we would move to modified consensus. And what modified consensus means, it's a proportion of the group who is for consensus. So in a group this size, if we had one or two real blocks, but everybody else felt really positively, that would be over our decided threshold of 9/10. If we had 5 blocks, it might be closer, right? You also count stand-asides with blocks. So if you have a majority of people, if you have like a significant portion standing aside, then over 1/10 standing aside, then you don't have real consensus by this model.
佢話如果有 block 有啲 block 係真係認真嘅話咧，佢哋會改呢一個嘅 consensus， 尤其是係全民係共識嘅話咧，佢哋會有少少呢個叫做 modified consensus， 我唔知點譯啦，更正式共識咁樣樣。咁佢哋就點啊？修訂式共識咁樣樣，咁個修訂式共識就唔需要全部人都係同意，咁佢哋就會改就話，咁佢會改其實有個 proportion 有個比例嘅，譬如話9至10即係大部分人嘅啦。咁而家 count 嗰陣時咧，佢有啲 standardised 棄權嗰票嗰啲人咧，同埋呢一個 block 嗰啲人咧，都係同計算在內嘅。
So something I'll say about the number we chose, 9/10. This number was too high for us generally. Most people will actually use 3/4 consensus, 75%, or 2/3 consensus. And there's a couple of reasons for that.
佢話好多時其實呢一個數其實係太高嘅，好多時喺 Wall Street 嗰陣時，佢哋會用啲低比例啲嘅，譬如話3/4啦，或者2/3嘅，佢話有原因嘅。因為其實佢哋經驗咗一啲嘅，即係累積經驗翻嚟嘅智慧咧，先至改呢個數。
So part of that is because you can't be hijacked if the number is lower by a very disruptive minority. So it's kind of a safeguard. And also if you have, say, CK's block was really good, and she was very persuasive and convincing, she could, if the threshold for consensus was lower, we could actually move to have consensus on the other side, right? We could actually, the minority has the ability to convince the majority if that number is lower. So
佢有兩個原因點解要改呢一個90% 嘅數嘅。第一個原因咧就係話，如果個份數去到咁高嗰陣時咧，有啲人好容易有啲極端，佢所謂嘅比較上極端或者少數嘅人咧，就會騎劫咗個大眾議題。第二樣就話，如果啲人真係好有關嘅，如果咁高嘅份數嗰時，佢根本係通唔到過嘅。一個低啲份數嘅話，就俾啲少數嘅意見嘅話咧，吸納多啲票數同埋可以通過到。
So it empowers a strong reasoned, like good minority, and it disempowers a minority who is against you and not actually part of your community. This is everything I've given to you is yours to adjust, to make your own. Like these are just things that we did, and I have suggestions about what actually works better, but this number and your process for consensus and a lot of things are up to you for what makes sense to Hong Kong.
佢只係分享緊佢喺華爾街嘅經驗，我哋香港點做咧？就我哋自己自決啦。究竟即係咪9/10啊、2/3啊諸如。
So that was long. I'm going to go into this. Yeah, we're all on the same page. Okay. So that was long form consensus deliberation. Like that was the long form. Now we're going to do a little role play to talk about action making consensus and quick decision making that has some kind of consensus based listening component.
佢就講過一個比較用長少少時間嘅一個共識方法。咁佢而家咧就俾我哋有一個活動咧，就係一個短打，即係一個長打，佢一個短打，想我哋試一下。
So for this scenario, I'm actually going to need a good amount of volunteers because we're going to do a role play.
佢需要啲義工嚟做角色扮演。
So can I get 17 people?
佢有17個人，哇
Is that a lot?
17個人。
No, they come up here. Yeah.
出嚟17個人出嚟，邊個想做 volunteer 嘅出嚟？
做角色扮演17個，大家唔好手啦。
快啲嚟啦！邊個想玩嘅，快啲上嚟啦！
點鐘都冇點心食㗎啦。
It's gonna be great. This needs a lot of people so you can understand what's happening.
快啲！
We have like 2 cops.
我哋俾啲年輕力量大家睇下呢個。
fine. This is fine. Okay. So me and we'll be cops. Okay. So.
我哋呢個圖數翻譯會停止啦，其實唔係有耳機翻譯嘅，我就話做嗰啲嘢咧就叫做多咗一條魚，不過大家 enjoy 咗啦。
咁剛才戴嘅耳機聽中文翻譯嘅朋友可以用翻耳機。
So I can just talk.
搞到發聲啦，真係要。
Okay. So in this scenario, we are at Occupy Central, and we are occupying, and the police are on their way, and they're bashing skulls, and we are trying to decide what we want to do, basically. So you guys are just milling about, you're caught off guard, you're doing your own Occupy, you're kind of just standing around and doing whatever you're doing, chanting, practicing, hanging out. And then suddenly, you learn that they're in 3 minutes, the cops are coming, they're on their way, they're very angry. What are you going to do? Fist swinging. The cops are here. What are you gonna do? They're angry. They're arresting everyone. You guys have to figure it out and self-organize. They're dragging you off. Coming out here. You're being evicted. You guys have to go. I'm sorry. You have to figure it out. We're taking you away. We're taking you away. We're taking you away. You're taking you away. Taking you away. Taking you away. Oh, you're sorry. Taking you Let's get them. Okay. All right. Okay, freeze. That was great. So let's talk about what just happened. What just happened, guys? And
First, we define where we are, whether we are on the road or standing together.
Hey, count here. Count here.
oh, you can't hear. Okay.
We are saying that we are just discuss a lot of proposals, and we are criminal to being just on the street. What will us do if the cops come? Are they going to be violent, or what should we do? But no conclusion.
Alright, then we kind of figure out that it doesn't matter we're not guilty or not because the cops are coming and they're angry. And then somehow they just cut us, suddenly, and then drag some of our companions there. And then I'm really grateful that some of my friends did grab my arm and stop them from pulling me there. And then we started to holding together and stop them from pulling us apart.
係咯，又建議即係我哋其實之前就好似好亂咁，大家提咗好多問題嘅啫。咁但係當啲警察逼埋嚟嘅時候，又好似做一啲好無理，我哋唔知做乜事嘅嘢。咁我哋就即係會建議，我哋要有witness 啊，要有人即係知道發生咩事，或者將來會有人即係知道發生過咩事。咁我哋應該係影翻啲警察做緊啲咩嘢，同埋我哋要 call 傳媒。
All right, yeah, it was kind of chaotic, right? So usually you're not going to have time to organize things like calling up press connections and figuring that. Obviously, talking about all of the stuff beforehand helps a lot, right? There are ways you could organize that I'll talk really briefly about right now with people who you already know, where you can make agreements and you can talk about skills like I know I'm a good facilitator, so I'll be with my friends and we'll make a quick decision and decide, oh, we're going to insert ourselves this way, or we're really good at press, we're going to hang back and not get arrested, but then tape what's going on, and you can organize yourself in that way. But if you don't have that, those are called affinity groups, actually, and you can just organize people you do know. They're very hard to infiltrate, which is a plus, and it helps organize in action situations like this. Also having action agreements beforehand, such as you're not going to get violent with the police, having some kind of understanding about how you'll operate is also really helpful. If you don't have either of those, there are a few facilitation things I'll talk about right now that will help and you can use in your toolbox, okay? So one of them is called, let's start with this one. One is called a spectrogram. And so on the spectrogram, what we're going to do is people who, when the cops are going to come, want to leave and don't want to be hurt and brutalized will be on this end. People who want to stay and hold this space and do something really like, hold where their position will be on this end, right? And so everyone will organize along this line as to where you want to be, right? So go do that right now. Yeah, want to go? You want to hold your space. So, this is it's a spectrum, right? And so you can organize yourself anywhere along this line, right? So over here you really want to stay, and over here you are so out of here, yeah. Okay, great. So this is a really great visual representation. This is a really great way to gather information super quickly about where people are, right? The people who are over here can instantly know that, they instantly know they want to, are you guys figuring it out? Are you guys good? Are you where you really want to be? Make sure that you, okay, all right. So the people over here can talk to each other, be like, okay, what's our exit strategy? How are we going to leave together? How are we going to get out of this space, right? So you guys can talk to each other about that, make sure you get away safely, and then make your escape. People in the middle, you can figure out if there's some kind of shared, does everybody get that? Okay. You can figure out if there's some kind of shared way that you want to be an accessory to what's going on, right? Do you want to stay near people who are really going to hold it down and lock down? Do you want to do press and kind of be moving around? What is your relationship? Do you want to lock down? You can have a conversation in the middle about what makes sense, or you can group with these people if you really want to stay. And those who want to stay, they can talk about how they're going to stay, right? What's the best way? What's going to look the best? Because it would be awful to be in a group like this and being a person over here and suddenly find yourself in a group like this and getting incorporated into a blockade where you really want to go, You don't want to be that person. You want to respect everyone's boundaries and make sure that you're listening. So you guys can talk really quickly about how you would want to stay and what you want to do and what that looks like, right? So why don't we do... Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So you're not trying to convince everyone to do the same thing, especially in an action scenario. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay.
Consider that we are occupying Central with love and peace. Is that about civil disobedience? So that can we resist the cops due to our norm?
Well, these are good conversations to have beforehand, right? You need to figure out if resisting the cops counts as part of love and peace, right? You can talk with people who feel similarly as you do. So these are action agreements that you would ideally figure out beforehand, right? So that you all know that you're not going to be taking action that's going to put others at a risk that they didn't sign up for. All right, so let's do one more. Okay. So we'll figure this out later. We're going to run through all this again. I'm going to do a couple more techniques. Yeah. Right, another method, just for quick decision making, right? Okay, so you're all together. You all come together again. Okay. So say you want to figure out if you want to do, this is a kind of longer exercise. But say you want to try to work, you have a slightly longer time, you want to figure out if you want to do the same thing, if you could gather more information. You can have a facilitator who, on the news that, oh, the cops are coming, you take 2 pro-staying opinions, 2 anti-staying opinions, and then get that out there, right? So the cops are coming, I'm your chosen facilitator that you've predetermined, and who wants to stay? Give me 2 reasons really quickly.
We are obligated to, to practice exercise our constitutional right to, gather at the street and, to protest against the unjust institution now in Hong Kong.
And we kind of expect this to happen, so we choose to stay before we.
So you're prepared, right? Okay, so what are the negatives?
I don't want to die. We want to be as a witness to maybe to just stand a little bit behind to watch and just to safeguard what happened could be, yeah.
Right, so the complexity and diversity of ideas, right? If you want to live and run, then that is you don't know how you're going to react in that moment when the cops are coming. If you want to go, that is so okay to go. But some might think that if you were choosing to leave, oh, she's a chicken, whatever, which is not true. But you're saying, no, I actually want to stay and safeguard you from whatever happens. So I'm going to be a little bit behind you and make sure that you're okay and assist you if necessary. So everyone's kind of voiced different positions. You guys can stay and hold it down again. She can stay and kind of be in relationship to you, and then she can bolt and get out of here, right? So these are really quick ways to get ideas in the air. An even quicker one is just to popcorn, right? There's no stack, there's no soliciting, it's just what should we do? Popcorn it, and then you say, we should go because this, or we should say because of that, and we should go because of that. It gets all the ideas out there really quickly, and then people know how to self-organize, right? And so let's try that again with just that small toolbox of things, and you guys are gonna mill about, and I'm gonna give you a couple of minutes, and you should figure out what you're gonna do. Same situation, cops are coming.
Be quick. What you guys do it? Be quick. Be quick.
Okay, so you guys can.
哋想走先？快啲講，俾2個原因我哋最快。
唔想坐監啊！
唔想無級妻兒。
呢邊點解想留低㗎？
我覺得我哋需要繼續留喺度去使用我哋嘅權利。
未完㗎，未完。
係啦，咁樣，然後咧，好啦，我想問下呢啲想走嘅朋友，你哋會唔會有人咧選擇咧係可以留喺度即係做一個支援嘅角色，即係譬如真係有警察喺度拉啦，咁然後你哋咧就可以咧幫手去，即係譬如去報告傳媒啊，或者係打電話啊，有一個兩個 ，OK 中間。咁然後不如我哋係啦，呢邊咧有呢邊傾，跟住走嗰啲就走先啦，係，跟住我哋呢邊咧留嗰啲朋友，不如傾下點樣留啦，然之後其他支援嗰啲朋友要點做，諗下點做，打俾批准嘅集會，請遊行人士注意，你哋已經觸犯法例，呢次係一次未經批准嘅集會。
走路啲嚟㗎。
就嚟拉人啊！
咗啦！
牌嚟嘅啫，我哋。
你而家一直都係。
OK，第二次警告，呢次係一次未經批准嘅集會，你哋已經觸犯法例，遊行人士注意，你哋已經觸犯法例。
Let's talk about that. So, yeah. How about that? Tell me what happened.
We were just saying that for us, for the people who stay, we decided for that 2 person, they decided to be our supporting team. They need to, be the recorder of the incident, and also if the situation is very urgent, then we need to help to contact maybe lawyers or medias, and also for the rest of us, we are staying, and also we will not, fight back to the police. We are using peace, non-violence actions, principle, and we will stay calm and make a circle and stick together hand by hand, and also and we will shout out slogans like police is abusing the rights And we are doing a peaceful protest here, and they have no right to arrest us. Yeah.
Yeah, right? Anyone else?
Oh, okay, yeah. Because the police, they bring one of our men go, and then we decided we need to call legal support, and yeah, because they are start to arrest our group.
Yeah, right? That was excellent, right? A lot more thought out than the first, right? Maybe a little bit. And also, I mean, if you think about what you organized, you were together, you showed unity, you really thought about the image you were creating, you had your own media capturing the image, and then the police are suddenly the hostile people, right? Whereas if you're just a kid who's like fighting back and they drag you away, if you're looking at that from the outside, kind of are with the police a little bit. You're like, yeah, sure, take that kid away. But you guys thought about it and turned inward, didn't engage, and were really unified on your message. So if that media piece gets out into the world, suddenly that's something that reinforces your effort, right? So there you go.
I remember during our discussion, someone suggested that we all sit down because it would be harder for the police to drag us out. But then it just got, nobody sit up. And then someone suggested that we face back to the police. I'm really concerned about, giving my most vulnerable place to the police, but then everyone is doing that. And then somehow we decided to form a circle and then hold each other. So in strategic things is still a little bit chaotic. And someone mentioned that we must be non-violent, but then I don't know how to define non-violent. Like we hold each other, and then the police is holding one of them, and we are holding him back. Is that non-violent or something? Technical issues.
Yeah, I know. Those are things you're going to have to work out beforehand and talk about when you're planning Occupy Central. But there is something about showing a vulnerable part of yourself to the police, right? It shows you are totally at their will. You're not fighting back, right? You're holding each other. And I don't think that from the outside that would have read as violence, right? It's about how it reads mostly. And so, something to consider. I think it was actually a really smart, quick decision that you guys made. So kudos, it was really well done. Yeah, thank you guys for all that. So that, I hope was informative, and I'm going to let our little volunteers get back. But I'm going to call it a session, and I hope that you guys kind of got a feel for formal consensus as well as strategies for making quick decisions and how to organize in actions. One thing you can always do in an action is we have a signal that means we need to talk, which is, I'll demonstrate it right here. So this signal, if you're in an action, it says we need to facilitate something, there's more information, I need to pass this along to you. That's really useful, and for situations like this, if one person knows that the police are coming, they can run up to the group, do this, and then you can start having a sort of thought-out engagement. But I was going to hope there were some questions. We're going to do questions later. And
大家或者喺呢個時間，即係我諗咧，無論玩嘅同埋做嘅，可能坐喺度即係睇都好緊張啊！咁有冇咩問題即刻問咗先，然後我哋就請阿陳健文教授去回應一下。呢個
support you. Lawyer group. I got it. So we have lawyers to support us. Yeah. So yes. We had the National Lawyers Guild, which is a lawyers agency that provides help to activists in states And they still are covering our cases. You know, when you do these protests, your legal cases go on for so much longer than the action. So yeah, we had a really good support system.
I would like to know, what do you do with your stack list? So do you type it up afterward? Do you have a central archive for it? You know, all the notes.
With the notes, yeah. The stack list we don't type up, but the notes, we have an online archive of all the notes and we put them in there. And you really want to be, I didn't talk enough about transparency or training. They're both crucial to any movement because that is the way people gain capacity in movement, and it is a clear, transparent way about how to advance in a movement. So, yeah, you can find our notes at nycga.com, I think, or .org. I'm not sure, .com or .org. So that's from Occupy. You could also just probably Google the notes. You'll find them.
And have there any facilitators that have been overthrown because people just don't like the facilitation or not being fair?
Yes, absolutely. Because it's a position of power, right? So you want to, especially in facilitation, make sure that you're training new facilitators, right? You're building capacity in others. You want to see the faces change and circulate because having the same person in front of you for meeting after meeting after meeting it's not going to sit well with people. And yes, there have been a lot of facilitators who have been overthrown, who are not trusted, who are a lot of egos that have been overthrown in the movement. And just try to navigate it. It's going to be there, right? Because people have egos, but yes, it definitely has happened, and it's not pretty. So try to